Okay, hello everyone. Let's just get started. Annapolis College Consulting and its partner, California College Consulting, is pleased to present this session entitled SAT, ACT, AP Online Learning Talk with an Expert. Please note today's presentation is being recorded and all participants are muted during the broadcast. Today's session will last approximately 30 minutes and will offer a Q&A session at the end. You may submit a question at any time by typing it into the chat window and clicking submit. I will be monitoring chat and will provide our hosts with your questions. If we do not answer all of your questions by the end of the program, we will include the answers in a follow-up email. Our host today is Lee Norwood of Annapolis College Consulting. Many of you are familiar with Lee, but for those of you who are not, I'd like to give you a brief background. Lee is a successful entrepreneur and a published author with 2 bachelor's degrees in business marketing and English from Elon University. As her freshman roommate and colleague, I attest to her energy, intelligence, and uncanny ability to connect people with opportunities. Lee is a seasoned independent educational consultant whose skills in this field are extraordinary, and I am always thankful to be on the receiving end of her knowledge. Lee's guest today is Karima Davis, founder of Tutor Partners. Karima has worked for over a decade with students and families from a variety of countries, cultures, and backgrounds. It was during her 8 years in Saudi Arabia, she discovered her talent for helping students build confidence and reach academic and personal goals. 22 years ago, while Karima and her children were living in the Middle East, she worked as a teacher of English as a second language at some of the top universities there. Her philosophy and goals remain congruent: help them improve their skills and their mindset. So of course, we are thrilled to have this expert with us today to discuss the upcoming testing landscape. We hope Karima will give us an idea of what we might expect over the coming spring, summer, and fall with regards to SAT, ACT, and AP test dates and strategies. As we all know very well, our current world situation has turned our routines and processes upside down. For those of you struggling with online learning, Karima may be able to offer you some solutions. My name is Emily, and I'm your moderator this evening. I'm thrilled to welcome you to our program. Let's get started.
Thank you, Mo. That's my nickname for Emily. We were freshman roommates. So for all of you students who are out there and you wonder what you're going to get out of college, other than an incredible education, you're probably going to meet some of the best friends of your life. And you never know what will come after that, like maybe a business partner. Some of you may be familiar with Emily because she is our director of punctuation and structure. So where I have all the wild and crazy ideas, Mo's always the person that can dot the I's and cross the T's, and we don't let anything leave our doors without having him be polished by California College Consulting. I also wanted to take just a brief minute to introduce the gentleman in the middle of my screen, and that's Kevin Jenkins. He is new with our team, and you guys will all have a chance to meet him. He is working with us on college lists. He's a specialist in that he's been behind the scenes. He's worked at colleges. So I say he's made the sausage. He knows how everything is put together. He's been to hundreds of colleges. And he also has another expertise, and that is helping students who are first generation and maybe underrepresented students. So we really look forward to working with Kevin. So you want to say hi real quick? Kevin's in Virginia.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Lee. Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. That's it, short and sweet.
There you go. Thank you so much. And so tonight, what I thought I would do is just give you a really quick overview of where I think we will go. Again, like Mo said, you can put any questions that you have into the chat. But we're going to talk a little bit about SATs and ACTs. This is going to be a very broad brush overview of everything because, as you know, you guys will be setting up January appointments with me, and then we will do specifics for each of you and your specific testing plans. But we want to talk about that. We're also going to talk about timing, how to prepare, a little bit again about ACTs, AP exams. We're going to talk a little bit about subject tests. And then I want to talk about online learning and pressure and stress and how to alleviate it and what's the most important. That's why I really like to work with Karima and her team, because the most important thing is your mental health and you not completely stressing out, because guess what? You're all going to go to college and you're all going to be successful adults. We just want to help guide you, and we want to make sure that you do this in the best way that you can. So welcome, Karima. I'm going to let you say hi to everybody and maybe give us an overview of SAT and ACT testing for this year.
Okay, thanks, Lee. I'm so excited to be here today. Hello, everyone. I'm Karima Davis. As Lee mentioned, I'm the founder of Tutor Partners, and we are so excited to work with our partners, Annapolis College Consulting and California College Consulting, to support students this school year as you prepare for SAT prep and just navigating virtual learning as you prepare for college and the rest of your high school adventure. So today I have the pleasure of also having with me one of my partners and a member of my team. His name is Adam Rothberg, and Adam is our top SAT, ACT, AP expert. He has a background in physics, and he's been tutoring and preparing students with SAT and ACT prep for over 15 years, I believe, Adam. So he can correct me if I'm mistaken, but Adam will, give you all of the ins and outs of what to do for SAT, ACT, and AP exams. Any questions that you might have, he has his advice and his strategies that have worked for tons and tons of students. And his strategies not only work for SAT prep and ACT prep and other exams, but he will enlighten you by sharing that, or I will enlighten you by sharing Adam's secret is that his test strategies are life strategies as well. So that's the thing that I love about, how Adam's, technique in terms of, test prep and life in general. Like Lee said, it's not all about the grades and test scores. You're going to have to, life goes on after that. So you'll need to know how to navigate college and your career and all of the things that are going to come along with all of those, challenges that come with it. So it's important to, see this as an opportunity to prepare for your long-term success, not only, this current exam or whatever it is that you're currently navigating in this present time. Lee, you're muted.
Speaking of current exams, as you all may be familiar, you're going to be going on College Board or AP websites to sign up for upcoming tests. The first test for the SAT is March the 13th, and the first ACT test, it looks like, is February the 5th. So there's several testing dates that are coming up. We've had several that have been canceled. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. I recommend personally that if you're ready and you've taken Algebra 2 and you think you're ready to take these tests, that you sign up and get ready for those. And then there'll definitely be others down the road that you want to be signing up for, with the caveat of knowing that May you're going to be taking AP tests. And I just want to make sure that you're not just testing yourself crazy. Karima, here's my question to you, and maybe Adam, you can weigh in as well. When do you start to study for SAT and ACT tests? Do I start now for a test in the summer? What's the best strategy for that?
Adam, I'll ask you to chime in on that one.
Well, I would say my general rule is 2 months for the diligent student. And the reason I say that really is, I think, from like a neuro-linguistic program and a neurophysiological perspective, it's really like learning a musical instrument or playing a sport. You need a certain amount of time to develop the brain structure and the nerves for that type of thought processes that go into test-taking strategies, which are definitely beyond the scope of the academic subject matter. So if you're thinking about, I have to learn how to deal with this reading technique, it just takes a while to learn the technique itself and then to develop speed and accuracy with it.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I think that I love that the point that Adam makes in terms of this, because we really want to encourage our students to look at this as, we want to become lifelong learners, right? So we don't want to see this as a short-term thing that we just want to go in and quickly knock out. We want to be able to take the strategies that we learn from SAT exams and preparing for those, and be able and use those later on in life, as we go through everything else in our academic career.
Okay. Thank you so much. That's good to know. It's muscle memory at a certain level as well, right? So we
Yeah.
do have some students who have signed up and are going to be taking the first tests available this year. My recommendation, of course, is to have your maths ready to go. And the majority of the testing is on, and I'll ask Adam to chime in here too, Algebra 2 and geometry. So can you give me a little bit of an idea of, based on what math level the student is currently taking, when the best time to start preparing and plan for a test date?
Yeah, again, as you said, algebra 2, really, because that's what the test is going to cover. So, I mean, there's a lot of different approaches. I say, look, if you've completed algebra 2, go for it. If you're thinking like you're still in 11th grade or, early in 11th grade, and you're planning on taking the test multiple times, and I bring this up specifically to point out that one could superscore the exam if a college will accept that. So you could focus on reading and writing now and know you're going to take it again next semester, and and then focus on maybe just the math, something along those lines. So at least 2 approaches.
Okay. Good. 2 approaches. And how many times do you all suggest that a student take the exam versus how many times do you suggest they take a practice exam?
Karima?
That's a question for Adam too. I know he has his wonderful ways in terms of the practice exam. So it's all a part of the strategy. So Adam, yeah, go ahead and
Sure.
share with us.
Yeah, and again, without too many different options and too many details, you take the test as many times as necessary to get the score you desire, basically is the approach. I think, you can break it down to different colleges and different admissions officers. Everyone is unique and individual, and they have their different personal perspectives and different scholastic perspectives or academic perspectives that are endemic to the school itself. So you want to definitely kind of find out, depending on where you want to go, what they prefer, but generally perseverance is seen as a good thing. The other thing is practice regular and often, regularly and frequently. So that you're learning and developing those skills that are necessary. And like when I work with students, I tell them, you want to practice untimed exams and you want to practice timed exams. And the details of both, there's details to both of those procedures. But the idea is, practice a lot, take as many tests as necessary. Generally, you don't want to take a test in adverse conditions, but it's well worth it to try that to see the type of effect it has on your performance. So regular and frequently is really the idea.
I love that advice.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the ACT. I'll chime in just saying that colleges look at them the same, the SAT and the ACT. There are subtle differences in those tests, and we can talk about that one-on-one when we have our meetings. The one that you prefer is the one that I would like you to move forward with and practice. But I don't want anyone who's on this webinar to think that they need to take these tests 6, 7 times. That's not the goal. The goal is not to stress you out. The number one thing, and I wish you could all shout this because I know I drive it into you every time we talk, the number one thing that colleges are looking for is a rigorous class curriculum. So we want to know what classes you took, how well you did in those classes, and that you challenged yourself. But then when it comes down to testing, it's really who you are, where you want to be, and what college you want to go to. And we'll be talking about that when we select the schools for you for your list so that they really fit where you are. I think today I wanted to just show you that there is a strategy to do the best that you can on these tests.
Students, which is that we're trying to identify the nature of your conceptual and procedural strengths and weaknesses within the structure, scoring, and content of the exam. So if you look at the structure, the scoring, and the content of the exam, you say, well, that would sort of be the determining factor on what a particular student should take. I will note that the current form of the SAT, which changed a number of years ago, is very much like the ACT now. The actual stuff that's on the test is also very much like the ACT. So they were really generated, I would say, the old school, the ACT as it is and as it was really generated more towards critical intellectual thought processes as opposed to the memorization of individual facts, which of course the SAT did test on, but the new SAT is more geared towards that. So overall, you're looking at a greater similarity. The structure is even similar now too between the SAT, the new SAT and the ACT. And the scoring is quite a bit different, but that's not that important to discuss right now, I think. So.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to send you another question. Talk to me about, do we take those tests with writing or without?
Karima first, maybe?
I want to leave that one to you. You be the
Sure.
expert there.
And no one
Yeah.
wants to answer that one.
Yeah, no, I personally feel that the writing is the hardest of the subjects. Okay, so when you actually have to write an essay, you have to develop your own ideas, put them in order, and then find ways to introduce them in both a general fashion, using your critical and creative intellectual skills with the language, as well as organize your thoughts and transit from one idea to the other. So for example, when you're analyzing an essay and then writing about the analysis you have, I would say that's a bit of a more advanced thought process. Because the other process, if you're taking the test, is reading and analyzing somebody else's writing. So formulating, or let's say developing the ability to formulate a skill to write is, I want to say more advanced, but I don't want to scare anyone to think like, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to do that. It's more like, just more practice over time. And you develop that ability so that when you have the skill to write, not only are you able to articulate yourself well, which definitely college admissions officers are looking for, but you have the ability to interpret questions and passages in a much, let's say, greater, you just have a greater ability to interpret what is being presented to you, structure, content, organization, logic, etc.
So we will look at your colleges and see what they expect. Not all schools expect you to take the writing section. So rather than hearing this and stressing out, let's look at your college list and figure out if the schools where you're planning to apply require that writing piece or not. It's always a better idea to sign up for it with writing, and you can always just take that part off if you want to. Let's move on to, if we can, subject tests and when to take those and if you should take those. Karima?
Yeah, Adam is our expert again on all of that. So I will let him jump right in.
Well, to that, I would say it really has to do with the school that you're looking at, because different schools require different things. And I should note, I agree with you about the writing too. If your school doesn't require it, don't stress it. You're going to have other opportunities to show your skill. Certainly, I know, for example, some schools, first-year schools, will generally want to SAT subject tests, maybe one in the more creative area or history or English, and then one in the hard science, again, depending on what subject you're going into. Some schools, again, the AP is really, for college credit. So I would suggest if you have the opportunity to take an AP course, certainly do that. It'll get you ready for what I would say is sometimes a jump from one level of high school to a college level. And that's a nice transition point because, again, you're not thinking differently, you're just thinking more intensely in a more concentrated time period, which of course, when you get to college, if you're not there already, you'll know what I mean. Just a time crunch and information crunch.
Yes.
Yeah, and I believe also what going back to what Adam said about the writing, and even for the AP, for the subject matter exams, for students who know that they have a strength in a specific subject, or if they're strong in writing, and that will help them boost their application by, taking that exam, or taking, they know that I'll take this exam, I'll score well, by all means, I would go for it. And, also with the writing, if it's something that you can add to your, resume to show your strength, it's always a good idea to show your strengths in any way that you can. But at the same time, if it's not something that's required, there's no need to put extra stress on yourself if you don't feel that it's something that you're really confident in doing. There's no need for that.
I agree wholeheartedly. Some of us say that those subject tests are going by the way of the dinosaur, but then if you want to go to Georgetown, you better have them. So we're going to look at the different schools. And again, it's going to come down to my favorite answer for everything college. It depends. For the majority of you that are on today, we're going to do the SAT. We're going to do it the best that we can, and we're going to take it at least 2 times this year. For the rest of you, we want to dial in a little bit more and look at the schools where you're looking to go and put together a plan that's going to fit for you in those schools. That is wonderful. I just wanted to also make a quick note that those subject tests are not offered every time an SAT is offered. They're offered 6 times a year. So you do want to look into that and make sure that if you're planning to take a subject test, you can take up to 3 after the SAT, or just take the subject test. But you want to make sure that you're signing up for the SAT test that has subject tests after it. Um, to move on to one more thing and take the intensity down, because I'm already stressing about how much I need to study and I don't even need to go to college anymore. Let's talk about online learning, and let's talk about the realities that Karima has been dealing with on a day-to-day basis for years. Online learning is nothing new to Tutor Partners, and she's also homeschooled all of her children. She's an expert in this, and I want you guys to leave tonight with some confidence in yourselves and some ways to maybe lower some stress and some skills with online learning, and maybe ways that Karima might be able to help you down the road if online learning is a struggle for you, because it's new for a lot of us. Screen fatigue is real. I'm an extrovert. Not having that interaction is very, very difficult for me. Some introverts, they were built for COVID. So it really depends on who you are. So Karima, I just wanted to see if you could address the online learning and the mental health piece of this.
Yeah, so I've shared with Lee that I hear from families every day about the struggles of, learning online through this pandemic. And it's a struggle. It's definitely been a challenge for lots of families. There's the social aspect that, students are missing out on. There is this new way of learning that they were not used to, and they feel obligated to, they have to learn this way. They don't have a choice. It's true that yes, I've homeschooled all 5 of my children. My oldest graduated. 2 of them have graduated now, gone off to college. And, we did that over the course of several years. And we made it work, and it was a great experience for all of us. There was for every child, it's different. It's really important to take the focus and the stress off of, this is what we have to do now. Why do we have to do it this way? This is horrible. My kid doesn't like it. Look, take the focus off of the negative and really focus on the positive. Focus on what is working, and focus on your child's learning. What can you do to help them develop a love of learning during this time when it's really challenging? It seems like it's not going to work, and there's no way to do it to make them, fall in love with learning in this environment. But you really do have to find, take the time to learn how your child learns best, what is working for them. If some things are not working, be brave enough, step up to the plate and reach out to their teachers, or have them reach out to say, hey, this is not working for us or for me. Is there a way that we can do things differently? Try to get the support that you need, and, just advocate for their learning.
Emma, so we are coming up on our 30 minutes of information to you about testing. I did see in the chat, do colleges prefer an ACT or an SAT? And they don't. Different parts of the country used different tests, and they became popular for different reasons. But I want to thank you guys for coming. I hope that you understand a little bit more about what's going on with testing. We will have a personal plan for each of you. Khan Academy is free. You can use that to help you with your SATs if you are motivated in that way. It takes an interesting person to be able to motivate themselves and go on, but that resource is there, and that is a free resource. So it's something that's kind of helping to level the playing field of kids who can't afford to hire a bougie tutor to help them through all of this stuff. So that is one resource. And then of course, Karima and her team are another wonderful resource, and you can reach out to her.
One piece of advice would have to be that I want every student to know that you are unique in your own way, and you are capable of doing anything that you put your mind to. I know this is probably something that you hear from your parents over and over and over again, but it's so true. And, it's not about what school you go to. It's not about what, score you get on the SAT. It's about you being the happiest, most fulfilled version of yourself that you can be. So,
Thank you all. I want to thank each and every one of you that was on the panel today for providing this opportunity to engage in this conversation about testing. I personally think it's a very difficult subject. I didn't do well with testing, so it's very interesting to hear, and I'm glad you're here to support these students and families. And I would just say, it's a very general piece of advice, but really just don't wait for anybody to do anything for you. You've got to do it yourself. You got to start speaking up yourself, reaching out for help, engage with people, get involved. This is about you and your journey. So take it and run with it.
Be authentic with yourself. Realize that you're on a long path. I don't want to bore you with the details of my trajectory, but I went from studying music to studying the natural sciences, to studying writing, to studying peace studies and conflict resolution. And now I'm studying music again. So, as you said earlier, Lee, you're all going to study something. You're going to go to college. You're going to be successful. Just to reiterate that, as you are on that path, and if you're authentic with yourself, you love what you're doing. And if I may add with that idea, I think a lot of people look at this academic stuff as being difficult, and perhaps it is, but it's nowhere near as difficult as playing a musical instrument. It's nowhere near as difficult as dancing or gymnastics or anything like that. So if you can do those things and you're doing those things in high school, then mastery of standardized test taking in academics is actually quite easier, and you will not injure yourself.
Just first say kudos to everyone doing everything you can to take advantage of the great information that's been put out. I can't say enough, and I've heard it from the panelists: be yourself. Don't try to be what you think colleges want you to be. They want to know who you are as a person, and think about critically where you want to spend the next 4 years of your life.
Is the writing part included into the overall ACT score, or is it a standalone?
So
Excellent.
if you are taking an ACT and you come up with a score of a 28 or a 33, that is not including the writing. The writing would be separate and over here.
Great, thank you all. And for those of you who are still sticking around, if you do have a question, go ahead and pop it in that chat window and I'll address it. We have one more that was provided to us during your talk. If a freshman is taking Algebra 2 and Geometry, when should they take the ACT/SAT?
Adam, you want to take that one?
Oh, sure. Again, my argument, I think Lee referred to this earlier too, is it depends. That's kind of the answer to everything, really. So I would say, depending on the type of student and their ability to remember things and the trajectory that they're on. So if you take, for example, Algebra 2 and Geometry as a freshman and aren't planning on taking much in the math or science after that, you should probably take it sooner. But then again, you're going to be dealing with other subject matter that is a little maybe beyond where you're at as a freshman. Okay, so it's really up to the individual. If a student is planning on graduating in 11th grade, for example, and they are taking those subjects in 9th grade, maybe take it in 10th grade, okay? But again, I would argue, because I've worked with so many students, that some students have excellent memories, some students don't. Some students have very excellent logical thought processes, some students don't. Of course, we want to develop all those things in a student, but I have my own personal abilities as well. My memory isn't as great as it used to be for certain, but my ability to understand logical processes is definitely more advanced. And part of my job is to see that in the student and help them to manifest whatever strengths or weaknesses they have. Not manifest the weaknesses, of course.
Well, I'll also say, there's a litmus test here. You can take that PSAT, kind of see where you are, right? You can kind of look at that score and see how you handled the test as a whole. I feel like 9th grade or 10th grade is early to take that. But if you're on that mathematical journey and you're ready, that's fine. But I also think math is math, and you can probably go back and brush up on some of that when you've matured into maybe some of the other subject matter, which I think Adam was talking about
This is
too.
fascinating. It's really good information, I think. So our attendees, our participants do not have any more questions in the chat window. So unless you all have any parting words, I think that we have said what we need to on this subject for tonight.
No parting words, just take a look at the Tutor Partners website here. Reach out to them if you need them, and I'll show you another place where you can find them. Everybody, you should be very, very familiar with this page. What is it? It's our client portal, and you can log into our client management software. You can book your next meeting. You can celebrate the $2.6 million in Merit Aid scholarship our kids have gotten already this year, and we're not even into the main answers and acceptances from colleges. But if you scroll down right here, you will find Tutor Partners and just link right into it. You can go down a little further for some other great resources and other partners that we have, my book of the month, and lots of different articles and information. We are a wealth of information, but we also believe in community. So we like the face-to-face and the Zoom, because that's what we're here. We're people trying to help other people. So I'm going to sign off and say thanks to everybody. You guys have a great night. Happy New Year, and here's to a great 2021.